Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suky Sodhi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talent Titans. Today, we are going to be talking all things RPO. My guest today is Maria Arvanites, Vice President of Robertson's RPO. Maria, welcome.
Thank you for having me here, Suky. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you for joining. Now, who are you? Who is Maria?
Well, Maria has started off her recruitment career just like everybody else did. We all just kind of fell into it, right? So I walked into a staffing agency thinking that they can help me find a job, not really understanding that clients are really our main focus and not finding candidates positions necessarily. We do work on both sides, but certainly the client side is critical. That path actually really led me to where I was now. It's really solving critical hiring issues for our clients. And that brought me to RPO many years later.
Amazing. So, for those people that don't know, what is RPO and what's the difference between RPO and staffing?
Oh, great question. So I feel like RPOs are really talent acquisition business partners. RPO stands for Recruitment Process Outsourcing. We manage all or part of the hiring process, and we work exclusively on roles for our clients. We work under their brand, we align to their goals, and we build a hiring engine that really does solve the problems that typically clients have in recruiting talent. And the difference between us and staffing agencies is traditional staffing agencies are very transactional. You give them a job, they fill it. They often work alongside other agencies. They market themselves, not the client brand, and they'll send, candidates out to multiple clients. So that's the difference.
Okay, so let me just make sure I'll clarify something.
Sure.
RPO, you don't send the client candidates to multiple clients. They are purely 100% for the RPO client.
Correct. Yes, that's right. We are working in a dedicated model. We only work on that client's business and we only send candidates out to that particular client.
Got it. But the candidate can go and apply for multiple jobs off their own back should they wish.
Of course. Absolutely.
Okay. So let me ask you this then. From a client perspective, why should I engage in an RPO model? Because theoretically, as you said, traditional staffing, they're still sending you the candidates. So you're still getting the candidates. So why should I go for an RPO?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think that every workforce solution has to provide you with the strategy that you're looking for to solve the problem at large. And I think that a lot of organizations are really looking at workforce strategy solutions to solve the problems of cost, quality, and process. And luckily for us, that RPO actually does all three. You know what? Their clients are typically interested in shaving down costs, and we take them down by 20 to 50% of the cost per hire. As far as the candidate quality is concerned, we have better submission to interview, to hire metrics. Our matches stay longer, and that's validated by 6-month retention rates and hiring manager satisfaction scores. Our process is faster, it's more engaging, it's more consistent. Candidates love the experience, so do hiring managers. So a lot of organizations are really taking a look at what their deeper need is rather than that transactional fill, and using a firm like ours to actually help them tick the box in that. But also, you have to remember, right? RPO solves a bigger problem than just the fulfillment. So it does align to the bigger business needs, which are flexibility, data-driven insights, and scalability as well. So we're able to deliver on those two. And that's why I feel like RPOs are a better business partner than traditional staffing agencies.
Maybe I've misunderstood here. So I want to go back and clarify something.
Sure.
You said better retention rates, time to hire, and all of those other metrics. But traditional agencies use the same metrics. So I guess, how does your selection process differ from the traditional agency then? Because the traditional agency, it's still, certainly I know, I look at ratios, how time to fill, how long the candidate stays. Is the actual candidate selection process also different then from what a typical agency would do?
Well, the entire process is different. So when we brand according to the brand standards of the client. So we're using the client's brand. We're going to market as the client. And I think that you would probably agree with me that typically speaking, when a candidate is engaging with an agency, their expectation for a great client experience falls secondary to the experience that they would have with an agency. With us, with an RPO, it is the client brand that we're bringing to market, and the candidate experience and the candidate expectation and the candidate quality tends to be higher.
I think I would kind of agree and disagree in a way. I 100% agree. Unfortunately, agencies have a bad rap.
Yeah.
Okay, just that whole candidate experience, and unfortunately, everybody gets tarnished with the same brush, right?
Sure.
But so I can see why some candidates, or the experience, the perceived experience, I think that's the word, that's the difference, it's that perceived experience. They think they're dealing directly with employee, HR, whatever, talent acquisition from X company. So I guess they potentially approach it differently as well. I just want to be clear that we're not saying agency process is crap.
No,
Right?
no, not
I
at
don't
all.
want anybody to.
No.
I don't want anybody to mistake that. That's what we're saying. We're saying the
No.
process is different, and it's how the candidate's perceiving the process, and it starts with the
Right.
branding.
Well, the agency process has to align to the agency model and need.
Yep.
Whereas the RPO process has to model the client need.
Yep.
And the agencies work across many clients. RPOs
Yep.
work representing one client. And
Yep.
so when you are looking to capture information from a candidate using, and you're working with an agency, and I've been in the agency world for many, many years, you're trying to understand if that candidate can fit into multiple different companies and at what capacity. Whereas within an RPO, you have a singular client and you understand, can that candidate fit in here? Do they have the right are they the right cultural fit? Do they have the right skill set? Are they aligned to the corporate values, et cetera, et cetera? So it's a bit different.
So I think this is a misconception, but again, correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone thinks RPO is for big companies, your FTSE 200, 250, that kind of stuff. In my mind, no, it's not. It could equally work for a mid-size. And I guess, what's that cutoff? When does it become a potential RPO need versus an agency need?
Yeah, great. A couple of questions in there. And so I think that if a company is spending, $250,000 a year, $300,000 a year on agency fees, if they are making, or they're making more than, 50 hires a year, I think that they have an opportunity to work with an RPO to do things a little bit differently. And I'm with you. I actually think that there is a misconception about larger organizations only benefiting from RPOs. I think mid-sized companies benefit probably more because they don't often have that internal recruiting infrastructure or employer brand recognition that big names do. And so when they need to scale, when they need to open up a new market or fill critical roles, they actually hit those roadblocks. They're just not as competitive as brand names. They're not as sexy. But RPO gives them access to full-scale recruitment engines, and they don't have to even build it themselves. So it's a turnkey effect. So I feel like that alone really does put a mid-sized organization at an advantage.
I totally agree with you, because even if you just think traditional recruiting, right? So you go on that traditional side, everyone wants that quote unquote logo that, want to say we work with Google, this bank,
Sure.
and everyone's chasing that, and that mid-size tends to get forgotten. And in my experience, it doesn't matter where in the world I've been recruiting, mid-size are the ones that they may not give you 50 roles a year, but they're also not going to beat you down on price the price is so low that you're not making any money. I always find they're going to pay a good salary. They're going to pay a good fee,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to be more, for the most part, I get it, not everybody's the same, but for the most part, I find they're really invested in the process, because I guess you could argue they've got a lot more to lose if they with a bad hire
Mm-hmm.
than maybe somebody that has a team of 20 people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you. And I think that RPO gives them that agility, right, to support them where they need it and when they need it, right? So an RPO can help support certain functions. All are part of the recruitment process. They can support different departments. They can support different growth phases. And, a traditional staffing agency can't always, provide them with that additional support. And their internal teams typically are stretched,
Yep.
and they are not tactical leaders and experts in growth phases, and that's where we come in, or niche recruitment, hiring, etc., right? So it's not a one size fits all to the business. It could be 50 hires a year, it could be 500, but RPO really helps an organization scale.
So, how does RPO integrate with a company's existing HR or talent acquisition team? Because they've got a process, quote unquote, that's working or perceived to be working. Does the RPO model completely turn that on its head, or does it integrate and embed itself into their process? I know you touched on that earlier, but to what extent are we embedding ourselves into their process?
Yeah, great question. So we like to think of the integration as seamless. So we are supposed to be there to strengthen an internal TA team. That's our job. And we like to think that we're an extension of the internal function. And we don't like to think it. We actually are an extension of the internal
Yep.
function. So we operate under the same brand. We are aligned to the same values. We use the same system. We introduce better ones if needed, right? So there are changes. We collaborate very closely with the hiring managers, as do the internal TA team, and we communicate as if we are part of the team, because we really are. So our goal is to take the pressure off internal recruitment so that they can focus on their core work, their strategic work, and we can do that heavy lifting piece for them. All in all, to be honest with you, I think it helps them focus more on their
Mhm.
jobs at hand.
Do you get much resistance then, in terms of? I want to come on to AI adoption in a second, but
Sure.
outside of AI adoption, do you get much resistance, as in, and I'm not talking executive level decisions, right? The decisions made to bring RPO in, bring you in, but individuals that are doing the day job on a day-to-day basis, the sourcing team, the recruiters, do you find much resistance from them? Because, well, we've always done it like this and I've done a good job, why do we need you?
Well, I actually think that they're more relieved to see us, and I think that they're
Mm-hmm.
relieved for a couple of reasons, right? So we do remove that heavy lifting off of their plates, which is a real drag in their day, and at the same time, they're able to learn from us, and so that's, I think, one of the key takeaways that a lot of HR departments, a lot of TA teams aren't expecting. But they take a look at what our process is, they understand what tools we're using, and then they like to integrate them into their own process. So it's very much a two-way street there.
Okay, that's,
It's really
and even
interesting
in
that,
AI adoption, even with AI, you said
yeah,
earlier you
even
may
with
bring a new system.
yeah, even with AI adoption. And actually, I think that's the most exciting part for recruiters, right? So they want to be as effective as they possibly can. They want to understand digital transformation a little bit more. They want to know what tools we're using and how well and how effective they operate. And so they're always asking us questions about different AI tools and different technologies that we're using. And in fact, now clients are asking us to come to the table with a certain tech stack in order for them to really understand and dive deep into technology and tools without that investment, and then to provide them with an idea of how they're operating and how well they're performing.
So let me just dig a little deeper here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've understood you correctly, clients are saying, okay, Maria, if we're going to have this partnership, you need to have your own tech stack ready. So we're not having to, quote unquote, go and do all of that.
Right.
And then we'll adopt yours. But this is the outcome we're looking for.
Yep, that's correct. And sometimes they don't want to adopt it. Sometimes they want us to hold license for it. They don't want to go out and source it, procure it, hold license for it, operate it, implement it, because it's quite time consuming and quite costly. And
Yeah.
oftentimes these organizations are really big, or they don't know how to do this, right? And if they're really big, it'll take them 2 years to actually even get to the marketplace to do an RFP and to select a technology. And by that time, that technology is likely obsolete, right? And then you have this
Yeah.
mid-tier organization that doesn't have line of sight into different technologies. And so they're looking for a partner like us that has expertise and experience in different talent acquisition technologies to really come to the table with a ready-made solution, including technology.
That makes sense because if I'm outsourcing the function and you are the expert, my expectation would be your tech stack's going to be better than mine because it's your job to stay with the latest, keep up with what's happening with AI. Everything's changing so fast. So that's going to be my expectation, right? So it surprises me that anybody would think to do it any other way. In my mind, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does make sense. It makes sense for our clients too.
And do you find most clients are like that? Or do you have some still, quote unquote, married to their systems and saying, yeah, but that's good, but we kind of want you to use this?
There are times where the client would like us to use part of their technology, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that most talent acquisition people and most HR people are advanced enough to know that there's no way that what they're doing currently is going to continue to help them in future, using the same tech stack that they're using. So they're open. They have an openness to learning. They have an openness to new technologies. AI has really forced our hand in this area.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I'm just thinking of another company that I work with, technology company, and
Mhm.
they solely for the staffing industry.
Mhm.
And sometimes when I'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, "This makes so much sense," but staffing agencies aren't adopting because they're like, "Yes, we like yours, but it must do it this way. You must adjust it to fit with us," rather than, "Oh my God, this is really good. Let's just go with it." So it's really interesting to hear from quote unquote the other side of the table that, oh God, I'm sure the hater's going to come out when I say this, but it almost sounds like corporations, i.e., non staffing agencies, they're willing to adopt technology and embrace it a lot faster than the agency world is.
I would agree with you there, although it shouldn't necessarily run that way, because isn't our job to provide a faster, better, less expensive experience for our clients, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's ultimately what RPO provides, because we do embrace technology so heavily. I mean, likely half of our week is spent doing tech demos, understanding different technologies, understanding the operation of that technology, understanding how well it would implement with certain organizations, certain clients, why we would use certain technologies over others, et cetera, in different work situations and different delivery models and different delivery needs. So we are heavily entrenched in technology. We see that as a real game changer for us.
You said earlier on, I can't remember exact numbers that you gave. You said RPO model saves 20 to 50%
Yep.
cost. I can't remember the exact number you gave me. I
Yep.
apologize for that. I'd like to know, besides obviously fees, literally the percentage fee, right? So take that right out of it. How else is it such a high cost saving then?
So is your question, how does it offer cost savings to the
Uh,
clients?
Outside of the fee, outside of the 20-25% that typical agency would charge.
Well, ultimately, that's how we are judged, right? And that's
Yep.
So our fee is a certain percentage. If you're asking about our costing model, we have different costing models depending on what the need of the client is, right? So we're going to charge a project a certain way. We either use a monthly management fee and a close or a cost per hire fee on top of that. So like a close fee, or we will do just a close fee, an open and close fee from the beginning. So there's different ways that we can
Okay.
actually cost out a solution for an organization to make it cost effective for them. But as far as other savings are concerned, certainly time is a massive savings for our clients. So we eliminate a lot of that drag that a client will go through. We provide them with a lot of data and analytics so that they're making smarter workforce decisions. So there's that green dollar savings and that brown dollar
Yep.
savings, as we call it, right? So
Yep.
there's both of that.
Yeah. So that's because that's where I was getting with this. It's just like you can measure savings in literally dollars and cents, which is the fee part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is the time, and I think time's one of the biggest ones. We often, and this goes for any role, any company, any model, we often underestimate how much time something actually takes us, and
Right.
we buy, quote unquote, buying back our time.
Right.
A lot of people don't see that as a saving, but in the typical analogy is people that do their own accounting, write their own books. Yeah, you may
Right.
save 2-3 grand a month, but in our world, that's less than one placement
Right. Right.
that you're
Correct.
saving. So imagine putting that time to, outsourcing that and actually doing what you're an expert in, which is recruiting.
Right. And by us hiring faster and better
Yeah.
candidates, you will see the cost of vacancy on the client side decrease, right? So you'll also see production values ramp up faster. They'll get to like 100% production targets faster than another type of hire, one that we're not responsible for. So there are a lot of those green and brown dollar savings, but then there's also
Yep.
the reduction of cost of vacancy, higher production values, the tendency also for our candidates to be part of succession planning and advancing within organizations. We hear from all of our clients that we're ticking those boxes.
Amazing. Now, I want to go back to data. We were talking earlier
Sure.
about the data.
Sure.
What role does data play in an RPO partnership, especially for tech-focused companies? So if we can just peel back a few more layers on the
Sure.
whole data.
Oh, yeah. Data is such a big thing right now. And even if you're not a tech company, you're a tech company, whether you like it or not. Data and technology are pivotal and they're central to any organization right now that's looking to pivot or grow or hire, right? And so we use data to really guide every step of our process. So that means dashboards, real time dashboards to track progress and the process. We use tools like salary benchmarking tools, talent maps, competitor hiring trend analysis. So that actually helps us create a very fast moving process and gives our clients what I would like to think a massive competitive advantage in the marketplace. And now there's some really interesting tools out there that are giving some good predictive analytics, testing and assessment tools, that kind of thing, in addition to other tools in tech, which actually helps clients make smarter decisions, faster hiring decisions, and it reduces the risk of bad hires. So I think that's the real role that data actually has to play right now.
Yeah, you're right. Because when we think data, and when we talked about it in the context earlier, and that's why I wanted to loop
Yeah.
back round, we think time to fill your traditional data points,
Right.
right? That's what we instantly think, but it's you're right, it's far more than that,
Yeah. Data
right?
is our guide now in creating a solution for our clients, and it helps our clients stay on top of their own game to make better hiring decisions for themselves.
Data informed decisions rather than emotion based
Right.
decisions. And
Yes.
I know people are going to say that, but Suki, people, right? You've got to get on. I get all of that.
Yep.
That, that all makes sense. I don't deny that. But You've got to make decisions based on fact.
Right. Yeah,
And
listen,
data enables that.
oh, I totally agree with you. And, if we're going to go into the conversation about tools and technology and human engagement, so I feel, and an RPO is really great for this, that, providing a fast moving, precise candidate experience is what candidates are looking for right now in the marketplace. AI has actually really helped change that. Um, we're using a lot of AI and automation, obviously, to stay ahead. So we use smart sourcing tools. We use to help us identify candidates faster. We use AI interviewing tools, screening tools, and that cuts down on the time to hire. And that gives our clients the competitive edge from a time to hire metric perspective.
Yep.
But then you have to pair that with the human expertise. You've got to personalize the experience. You've got to create the rapport. You've got to sell the job to the candidate. And we also have to validate what the technology, what that AI technology has told us about that candidate, right? You can't just take it at face value. You have to dig deeper. You've got to validate the candidate profile. And so I think that it's a combination of tech and human touch that really
Yep.
help clients
Yeah.
stand
No,
out.
I
Companies stand
agree.
out. Yeah.
I want to stick with the candidate experience. Yeah. Let's talk more about that. I know we've
Sure.
touched on it in bits of responses, but let's just hone in on that one a quick second.
Sure.
The candidate experience. Why does it differ? Actually, let me rephrase this question. How does RPO improve the candidate experience in this competitive tech market that we've got?
Well, great question. So the candidate experience itself is very client centric. So we're not building it to suit many different clients or potential clients. We're building it to suit one particular client. We have a lot of different tools and technologies in place, like I had mentioned earlier, that make it fast moving. And so candidates are expecting a respectful, fast moving process that is informative, that keeps them in the loop and lets them understand who the client is and their mission and their vision and what their culture is like. And some of the great parts of the RPO process itself are not only the digital transformation piece, but also espousing the values of the client actually to the candidate market, right? And really explaining and helping them understand who that client is. What is their mission? What is their vision? How do they support causes and experiences that are important to the candidate base, right? So we do represent the client fully to the marketplace, and that's important for the candidates, and that enhances the experience as well.
Yeah, it's because it goes back to what we said earlier. They know from day one this role is company X.
Correct.
So there's that transparency and what have you. So RPO, double barrel question on this one. What are some of the unforeseen benefits and disadvantages of an RPO?
Disadvantages. Okay, I'll start off actually with the
Whichever way you want to.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'll start off with the unforeseen benefits here. So I would like to think that there's three main ones. So we create a structure, and most companies that grow fast don't have time to build a scalable recruitment process. And it's not just companies that actually are growing quickly. It's a lot of companies don't have a scalable recruitment process. So we work very diligently to put in the right workflows, the right metrics, the correct systems in place. So that's technology and process. And so things that create that long-term stability, that benchmark for recruitment. Okay. We also reduce risk. So we own the process, we ensure compliance, we help companies avoid hiring mistakes, legal issues, brand damage. And I think it's because we are led by experts who have a huge amount of experience from even outside that particular industry that they're working in. And that's created that best practices process that clients may not get internally. And I also think that, like I had mentioned earlier, it allows clients to actually really focus. So we do that heavy lifting, and that internal team can really manage and focus on what their strategy is, how to build their culture more effectively, building the kind of workforce that, or workplace rather, that candidates want to be a part of and employees want to be a part of. So that's a very powerful mind shift for the client, and I would think that that would be the biggest disadvantage for an RPO, is walking into a situation where the party is not necessarily understanding how that RPO will fit in, and then making space for them. And I think that that change management piece is the biggest disadvantage in the
Yeah,
RPO and client relationship. Yeah. But
yeah.
if managed
I
well, it can
yeah.
work beautifully. Like, I have so many examples of where an organization, from the hiring managers to the recruiters, didn't know how to integrate with us. So we held, and there's good practice behind this. We held a lot of town halls. We had a lot of like one-on-one meetings. Our recruitment team met with their recruitment team. We made space and time to meet with the hiring managers to help them understand what our process is. And honestly, at the end of the day, after that project, the hiring managers were our biggest champions. The internal recruitment team actually adopted our process, adopted our strategies to help them with their internal hiring as we exited that project, and they remained obviously behind. So, really great stories when it's managed well.
Is but isn't that everything, right? Sometimes that resistance is fear of the unknown, and once they
Right.
actually recognize, there's going to be some people that listen to this and they go, "Oh, I can do that," right? But no, you don't know what you don't know, and that's the truth of the matter, right? And there's got to be that willingness to learn. So here's what I'm hearing: you leave a blueprint long after you guys are gone.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? You've given them their playbook, their blueprint. It's like, okay, guys, now you guys are ready for success. You can run this on your own to a degree, and off you go, because you've set those fundamentals, the basic, the process that they
Right.
shouldn't deviate from. Actually, here's a question: Do you find once you've left, people can tend to keep the process and keep moving forward, or have you ever had anybody that's kind of like reverted back to old habits and
Well, let
started?
me let me address this in a couple of different ways. So, just because we
Mhm.
have left, let's say it's a project, a
Yep.
client typically does undertake our process. They'll take a look at our tools. They may integrate them into their process. But when they have another project, they don't manage it on their own. They still call us back to manage it. We have quite a number of recurring clients that come back to us as they need assistance with scale, with growth in different areas,
Okay.
with focus on niche job functions, or where they want to actually see improvements. They want us to come in and basically create that process, that blueprint again for them in a different situation, to attack a new problem, right? So hiring is evolving, as we know, and the
Hmm.
client is also evolving, and we can evolve with the client, and we've got best practices depending on what the situation the client is facing right now, the circumstances that they're in. So I think that answers the question as to,
Yeah,
what do they do afterwards, right? Do they take it or do they leave it? I haven't seen one organization as of yet not integrate what we've done.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is a mindset shift,
Correct.
right? It's the mindset shift first, it's a change management shift first, then it becomes new process.
Right. And like you mentioned, right, you don't know what you don't know. So as a recruiter, and you know what, you've been working in a position for the last 5 years and you're really content with the organization. But here an external partner comes in and they say, oh, we've got these different tools, we've got this different technology. Oh, we manage our process this way. And the recruiter suddenly has an external tutor, right, that has really come in to show them how it's now being done, how much more it's been modernized, what different tools and technologies there are out there, how to use even just different platforms like LinkedIn to source candidates in a different way. Just their everyday tends to get improved.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because once you've seen something better that makes your life easier, why would you go back, right?
Right.
I know we're coming up to time, but I got one final question for you.
Sure.
What's the next, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 years look like in this RPO world? How do you see it evolving? Do you see something new coming? What's your crystal ball say?
Oh, great question. So we see a lot of interest right now with organizations as they have depleted in the last couple of years their TA teams, but they're still finding the need to scale up. They're reaching out to us to help them manage with that scale of internal resources. But it has to evolve with the market. And so we're seeing the contractor workforce increase, and we're seeing companies actually struggle filling those contractor roles internally. So they typically turn to agencies. Well, now RPO, as the next best, evolutionary phase of RPO is kind of unfolding. We see RPOs as assisting clients with their contractor workforce hiring. And so that's really interesting. And
that's interesting.
We're not seeing it. It probably won't take a bite out of the MSP world for large 50 million, $100 million clients. But certainly those clients that have 1,000 or less contractors on their payroll, we can certainly manage that volume for them. And I think that that's the next evolutionary phase for RPO.
Wow, that's really interesting because, my bad, should have clarified right at the beginning, traditional RPO is for direct hire. That's how traditionally we think. But it's really interesting to see that you see it competing potentially with the MSP model at a certain level. Have you had clients ask for that already? Have you started implementing these types? Wow. So it's kind of here.
Yes. Right now, I think that we're the only firm in Canada and one of just a couple in North America that have been able to provide this type of service with our clients, for our clients. But that also comes because we have deep expertise in both the multi-vendor and contractor market. And so we have deep expertise in that market. And then we have deep expertise in RPO and the FTE hiring strategies as well. So we've been able to kind of marry everything together and really create a seamless process for our clients to undertake contingent. It's called Contingent RPO, and to undertake that.
Yeah, because to your point, you know both worlds like the back of your hand, right? Or the business does, right? So it's not as if, oh, well, hold on a second, let us now go and learn what contracting is.
Right.
That knowledge base is already there, which, let's be honest, most internal TA teams don't have that.
Correct.
Right? They don't have that to the same depth and breadth they may have. Well, this has been amazing. Any final thoughts?
If there are clients out there and if they're looking for more information or resources on RPO, feel free, obviously, to reach out. If you are an agency and if you are looking to understand how that RPO world can, or how you can obviously, provide RPO services, reach out through Suky, reach out to me directly. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. Happy to be part of this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom. I don't know about anybody else, but I've learned a few things about RPO today as well, especially the whole, what did you call it? Contingency RPO.
Contingent RPO. Yeah.
Contingent RPO. There you go. Maria, thank you ever so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.